You can't get enough clamps or fixtures in the workshop, right? That's what just about any woodworker or metalworker will tell you. In this video we'll be making some basic welding fixtures, something you can make at home using some ordinary materials, some steel, and I'm going to be using the arc welder as a simple device to get this job done. Nothing too complicated at all. I haven't done arc welding for about 10 years and it'll show. It's like anything, it takes practice. So when you're doing your practicing of your welding, you'll gain confidence, and as you gain confidence, your skills will be building and you'll be pushing your envelope, and before you know it, you're producing wonderful work. You've got to persevere with it. With woodwork, any experienced woodworker will tell you that wood moves over time, moisture content, etc. And you have to allow for that in your build. Metalwork, your project will move whilst you're putting it together. For example, when you're putting a weld on, and if you haven't got it clamped and fixtured down properly, your job's going to move and be out of square before you even get to the next stage. So that's why clamps are so important, and fixtures to hold down your material and your job, to stop everything from moving. What we've got here is just a typical T-joint. It's at right angles, good and square. I'm going to put a fillet weld just in this corner here, and let's watch what happens. Nice little weld, right? But let's have a look at the gap when we put the square up against it at the top up there. Now that square is only about 150 millimeters long, and you can imagine the distance that this thing is out by if you're using a 900 millimeter leg off a bench. Things go out of square. I'm just making a prototype here, like a test run of the concept that I had, using the MIG welder because that's nice and fast. Once I got that, I got the real job underway. Oh, I just spent probably maybe an hour, maybe a little bit less than that, and this is the prototype. I've got to clean it up still and probably paint it. This clip here, I'm just showing that I'm marking things out, basic dimensions. You can make this whatever size that you need. The main thing that you need to remember is to keep everything square. So I've just drawn it up real basic so you can understand. The sides are 250 millimeters through the corner to the outside. But also, because this is a butt joint there, it's not a piece that goes all the way through. You're going to be notching out this piece as well. Once you've got these pieces established, put them together, you can tack weld them and then put this bracing in. A really simple project. First piece you want, 250 millimeters. Alright, I hear some of you saying, but I don't have one of these flash saws. What can I do? Well, a little angle grinder will do the same job, or a hacksaw, or a bandsaw. So I'm using a 1mm cut-off blade on my little 4-inch grinder, and let's see how we go about that. Just want to take a moment to highlight that this corner here I cut out later, that 45, I cut it out later. In the video I showed that I'm actually notching that piece out. It's not necessary. It can be done, you can do it this way, but it's just, I'm just making highlight that this is not a necessary step in this particular clamp jig that we're making. Just got to take out this corner here, just round that off, just with the grinder or a file, and that'll help that sit nice and neat. So I realised it was short by 1mm, and that was simply fixed using a file, a couple of quick strokes, and it was a nice neat fit. And that one is square. Oh, they're square now. I've checked that with the builder's square. It's nice and square out there, but I want to maintain that. That's critical. So let's just take a measurement. I'm going to put a brace in next. I'm going to measure. Just going to measure from the 100 and add 100. That's 299 millimeters. Now all you mathematicians are going to go nuts. So it's probably about 1 millimeter oversize. So I can just take that to the grinder now and just take a little tiny bit off the edge. So that's a bit better. Just going to check one more time for square before I put any welds down. And that's looking dead nuts on square. That's exactly what I want. Alright, I'm going to clamp this down here and get ready for the weld. I'm going to be using my ultra dodgy cheap eBay 3-in-1. This is stick welding, it's TIG welding and plasma cutting. So I'm dialing in probably around about 105 amps. Now these rods are only rated to 90 amps. I suspect this is out a little bit. Let's turn it on and try it. You know what? It's trial and error with these things. You've got to keep adjusting the amperage until it gets and feels about right. I'm just going to practice on a little bit of scrap material, and then once I'm happy I'll do the welds. There's nothing worse than scratching around with a stick welder and creating horrible, stringy, poopy welds. I really couldn't resist putting a nice little decorative fillet in the corner there, so sorry about that. It's really not necessary, but you know what? Looks good. Here I just get the angle grinder with a flap disc and just grind off all the weld beads on the surface that will want to sit flat on the table. You don't want it rocking and rolling, you want it nice and flat. Just to give you a little bit of an idea how this might work, this is some 50 by 50 box, and so you just basically, if that's going to be your joint, you just clamp it up. Clamp it up like so, and then this is not turned on, and then you would just weld. So another way you could set this up, like so. Now the only other thing I'd recommend that you do is to get that parallel with the side. You're off and running. So you may be wondering, why did we cut this corner out? Well, that's to get access for welding inside that joint through here. Okay, like that. But also, if this was continuing into that corner, if there was a weld fillet there or an obstruction, this clamp is not going to be able to get all the way into the corner. Well, I've made one set of clamps. Before I get on to the next stage of making the next set of fixtures, I wanted to give a shout out to Neil Paskin. You probably know Neil from Paskin Makes. There you go. I don't think you could meet a nicer guy. He's such a gentleman, but also he is an incredible maker. He is at the top of his game. He's made some incredible things out there, and he's a big inspiration to me. And I am very, very grateful to having caught up with Neil and spent some time with him. Hopefully we can do that again soon. Thank you, Neil, for the hat and the shirt, and I'll wear it with pride. You are an inspiration to a lot of us. I'm just making a second set of fixtures just now, or a jig. This is an external one only, so just showing an alternative means of creating a fixture through here. And I'll show a bit further along down the video how these fixtures, jigs, are actually used. Again, I just wanted to emphasize that the measurements here are not the important thing. It's actually making sure you get the right angles, that they're all correct, whether it be 45 degrees or 90 degrees. It really pays just to take your time in the setup with these things. Here's the test now, and that is bang on. Very good, I'm happy with that. I'm not happy with the welds, but it's okay. This last bit, this is a start to finish of the second clamp, and I used the MIG welder for this one just to get it done, and you can see me working my way through it. I used a bit of a different process. I used the clamp, or the jig that I just made, to make the second jig, and it worked out pretty well. Well, that's pretty much it. That's a simple little clamping jig. Now, because this has a strap across the bottom here which raises these side guides up, just using a little bit of flat bar of the same thickness up here to support the material. So just put that in, butt it up against the other end there. Real simple clamp there. And that's really as hard as it gets. And there you go, you got a right angle on there, and you just weld across and up and down, whatever you need to do. You can even do your miter joints through here, and so these two pieces would meet in a miter. And if you really wanted to, you could probably use the other clamp. This is an outside clamp. This one we just made was an inside clamp. Could really easily clamp them both together and really make sure it's clamped up. It's a little bit redundant, but that's you get the point. Well, they're done. I feel a little naked. There we go, that's much better. Well, these are finished now. I'm just going to leave them with the as bare steel. We'll spray some RP7 or WD-40, some oil on these to protect them. These are little workhorses, alright, so they're not meant to be glamorous things. Working on a welder's table here, paint just gets in the way. So they're done now. They're relatively quick to make, not a lot of material cost, doesn't take a lot. Took me the morning to get these 4 done. I used the arc welder. I haven't used that for about 10 years and I've still got a bit to learn with that in terms of just practice. All this welding and all this making is just practice and getting those skills down pat. But it's something that I do recommend if you want to get into welding. Making little projects like this is certainly a good start. Start off with an arc welder or a stick welder, not investing a lot in your money, and you get really good results and build your skills up with that. And when you get to the MIG machines, life's just so much easier. Those machines cost you a bit more, but they are easy to use in my opinion. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. These will certainly be featuring in up and coming videos along the way. They help me to keep things square. They're simple to build, nothing too complex here. And I'll see you on the next video. Take care.